I used to think silence was weakness, that staying quiet meant surrendering. But when my mother-in-law mocked my career for the 100th time, her wine glass trembling as she laughed, "Still playing with robots, sweetheart?" I didn't speak. I smiled. She didn't know I had already coded the system that would replace her physician. She didn't know Forbes had already drafted the article. And she definitely didn't know when the headline dropped, her face would be the first one I'd think of. People say revenge is loud, but mine came dressed in silence, and it screamed. I used to imagine marriage as a shared space, two minds building something greater together. When I married Matt, I stepped away from Google with that vision in mind. "We'll build a life," he said, "together." At the time, it sounded like an upgrade, not a downgrade. But weeks passed, then months, and the only thing I built was a perfectly folded linen closet and an impressive collection of herb-infused chicken recipes. I didn't leave Google for this. I left for the illusion that I'd be respected in a family that smiled too much and listened too little. Donna, my mother-in-law, had a way of sounding warm even while delivering precision cuts to the ego. "Rachel is such a gem." She'd coo at family dinners. "Left Google for love. What a sacrifice." Then moments later, she'd ask if I could teach her bridge group how to make banana bread from scratch, since you've got the time. Everyone clapped. I smiled. But inside, something began to rust. They called me brilliant, but no one asked what I thought. I was on display, not in partnership. Donna loved introducing me. "This is my daughter-in-law, Rachel. She used to work in artificial intelligence." Then she'd laugh. "Now she's mastering human intelligence through marriage." Guests would chuckle. Matt would squeeze my hand under the table, as if that made it better. It didn't. The day I discovered the router logs, it was raining. The Wi-Fi had been sluggish, so I accessed the admin panel. What I saw froze me. Weekly reports, device tracking, time logs, my laptop, listed, my phone, even my tablet, the browser histories exported into spreadsheets, the IP addresses aligned with timestamps. It wasn't just the router doing its job. Someone had configured it to monitor me. And it wasn't someone anonymous, it was Donna's name on the admin tag. I didn't say anything. Not that night, not the next. Instead, I started waking up earlier. Matt left at 7. By 6, I was at the dining table, coding. Not for Sonaris, the startup I had once pitched to Google Ventures. That dream had been shelved when I became a haze. No, this was for me. I dusted off an old AI prototype I had written in grad school. One designed to detect vocal anomalies that signaled early Parkinson's. I renamed the folder Velvet. For weeks, I coded in silence. It felt like recovery, a quiet rebellion. Then came another chill. One morning, Donna casually mentioned an article about a new health tech accelerator. "You should apply," she said, pouring tea, "since you've been looking at that site lately." I hadn't told her about it. I hadn't told anyone. I barely let the page load before closing it. But somehow, she knew. That same day, Matt brought home a new external drive. "Thought you might like to store your little projects here," he said. He smiled too wide. I thanked him, but my hands trembled. That night when he showered, I plugged it in, only to find a log directory, access dates, auto-sync scripts. I followed the rabbit hole. Then I found it. A folder named RH Archive. Inside were documents I hadn't opened in years, an old pitch deck, early code drafts, voice sample datasets I had collected from lab trials, files that had been on my private cloud drive. All of it downloaded, copied, modified, and in the metadata, his name, Matt Hayes. He had been downloading my work, transferring it. The last edit had been 2 months ago when I told him I wanted to start something again, just for me. He nodded, kissed my forehead, and copied my code. I sat in the dark for hours. The rain had stopped, but inside me, a storm had only just begun. The name hit me like a slap, Sonaris. It had floated through a newsletter on med-tech breakthroughs, nestled between biotech funding rounds and clinical trial wins. My heart stopped at the description: an AI-driven vocal diagnostics platform that could detect early-stage cancer using non-invasive speech pattern analysis. I didn't need to read further. It was mine. Every line of that idea, every algorithmic fingerprint, every damn assumption. That was the demo I had given at MIT's Innovation Summit 4 years ago. I'd called it EchoMind. Apparently, they'd rebranded. I dug deeper. The CEO, Matt Hayes. The board, a silent investor named Donna K. Hayes. I stared at the screen as if it were a mirror that had just shattered, and I couldn't look away. It didn't make sense. He'd never coded. Donna didn't know the difference between machine learning and her microwave settings. And yet, there it was, a fully registered Delaware startup with millions in funding and patents pending. And worst of all, the registration date was 3 years ago, just a month after I emailed Matt the full presentation deck to get his feedback. I remember that night. We had wine. I was excited, breathless even. "Tell me what doesn't work," I had said, handing him the USB. "Be brutal." He wasn't. He had kissed me and told me it was brilliant. I never heard his critique. I never got the USB back either. I scrolled through Sonaris's site, hand gripping the mouse until my fingers ached. There was no mention of me, no technical inspiration, no former collaborator, just Matt, standing confidently in a tailored jacket, arms crossed in a photo that screamed startup chic. Donna wasn't pictured, but her influence seeped through every line of their messaging. Sonaris blends empathy with engineering, the About page read, rooted in family values. I nearly laughed. Later that day, Donna called me into the kitchen. "We're hosting something this Friday," she said, wiping a spotless counter. "Matt's got a product launch event. You should come. It'll be good for you to get out of the house." My stomach tightened. "What's the event for?" "A health tech thing. Oh, don't worry about the details. Just wear something with sleeves. The air conditioning's always brutal in those ballrooms." I nodded, numb. I already knew. She wanted me there, to watch, to clap, to smile like a good wife while they unwrapped the gift they had stolen and repackaged in their name. Friday came too quickly. The venue was glass and steel, all minimalist lines and buzzwords. People sipped cucumber cocktails and discussed valuation caps like gossip. I recognized no one, and yet felt known, like a ghost at her own funeral. Matt took the stage first, casual and assured. He spoke in vague metaphors, quoting Steve Jobs and dropping phrases like, "Deep tech meets intuitive care." Then came the slide deck, and there it was, the waveform graph I had hand-designed, color scheme and all. It pulsed behind him like a heartbeat. Then Donna joined him. Wearing a soft pink suit and pearls, she addressed the audience like royalty. "What makes Sonaris special," she said, "is that it's not just code, it's care. It's the result of male innovation and female wisdom." She gestured toward Matt. "My son built the system. I simply taught him how to listen." Laughter, applause. "And Rachel?" she added, smiling at me in the front row. "My lovely daughter-in-law. She's here to support us. Always has been. Though she doesn't quite understand the tech, she's been such a sweet, emotional support." More laughter. My spine froze. A wave of heat rushed to my face, then vanished into cold clarity. I smiled. Not the fake kind, the dangerous kind, the kind that precedes detonation. After the event, a woman in a black trench coat approached me near the parking structure. She didn't introduce herself. She simply handed me a card. On it, embossed in minimalist type, was a single word, Femme Override. "I saw the graph," she said quietly. "I used to draw mine in green, too." I looked up. "We've all been erased at some point," she continued. "Some of us decided to stop disappearing." She walked away without another word, but the card felt heavy in my hand. That night, I didn't sleep. Not from rage, not from grief, from purpose. I stopped asking for credit. I stopped looking for justice. Instead, I started building. By the end of that week, I'd rewritten the core model. The original had been a diagnostic framework, mathematical, mechanical. But this time, I trained the AI on multilingual female voices, Icelandic, Swahili, Mandarin, Quechua. I wanted the machine to hear what women really sounded like when they were afraid but pretending not to be. My thesis wasn't just medical anymore, it was emotional. I wasn't building a product, I was resurrecting a voice they'd tried to erase. I named the project Ember Frame. Then I buried my identity. Lena K., born in Reykjavik, a survivor of startup acquisition abuse. I crafted her backstory with surgical precision. No social media, a Scandinavian voice modulation overlay. I even paid a voice actress to record a founder intro video with enough tech lingo to pass scrutiny. I sent out the pitch deck under her name to a mid-size female-led VC firm in San Francisco. 24 hours later, an email came in. Lena, we're in. $750K seed. More if you can scale fast. The same day, Matt walked into the kitchen, cheeks flushed with pride. Guess what? He said. We got matched with a new investor, some European micro fund. They're interested in our female-centric expansion. I nearly laughed into my coffee. I nodded. That's great. I'm really happy for you. He kissed my forehead. I nearly recoiled. The money they were celebrating was mine. My ghost self had funded them, through a shell fund linked to the VC firm that just backed Ember Frame. They thought they were expanding Sonaris, but all they were doing was giving me access to their back end, their data pipeline, their deployment schedule, and eventually their downfall. By week's end, I wasn't alone. Femme Override wasn't a group. It was a network, silent, encrypted, invisible until needed. Through it, I met women like Nadia, who had co-founded a fintech app only to be fired before Series A, and Kamala, whose biometric patent had been absorbed by her ex-husband's wearable startup. Each story was familiar, yet uniquely cruel, and each woman had something left: code. We didn't start a support group, we started a system. Together we built a new architecture, one designed not to compete but to undercut. A shared AI platform trained to detect vocal and emotional patterns linked to burnout, anxiety, and PTSD in high-performing women. We called it LYS, Let Yourself Speak. No one owned it. Everyone fed it. Each line of code was a stitch in a tapestry of resilience. While Matt and Donna hosted panels about inclusive innovation, we infiltrated their user feedback forums. While Sonaris sought partnerships with hospitals, we quietly released open-source modules that outperformed their models. Doctors began switching. Patient reviews shifted. No one knew why Sonaris's output suddenly felt dated, but I did. At night, I'd lie in bed next to Matt as he reviewed mysterious drop-offs in user retention. He blamed the dev team. Donna blamed the UX. I blamed them both, in silence. One Thursday afternoon, I opened my inbox and saw the subject line, Forbes Feature Interview, Hidden Architects Series. The message was short. We're launching a spotlight on anonymous tech founders changing the landscape from the shadows. We'd like to start with Lena K. Let us know. I stared at the screen. For the first time in months, I hesitated. If I said yes, Lena would become real, public, traceable. If I said no, she remained powerful but invisible. Then I remembered Donna's voice, laced with sugar and venom. Rachel doesn't quite understand the tech. I clicked reply. Let's talk. The camera never showed my face, just fingers typing across 3 monitors, screens awash with lines of code and waveform visualizations. My voice was synthetic, filtered, flattened, neutral. When Forbes released the interview, the headline read like a whisper, turned into thunder. She who codes in shadows, the woman redefining health tech. Lena K became myth overnight. Comment sections speculated. Some thought I was a collective. Others believed I was a deep fake campaign engineered by a marketing firm. A few guessed the truth, just not the who. This tech isn't just disruptive, one reviewer wrote. It's surgical, like someone's building the next healthcare operating system, and she's doing it while invisible. Sonaris began to bleed. Hospitals that had beta tested our early code now questioned their long-term contracts. Donna tried rebranding efforts. Matt hired a PR consultant. Nothing stuck. Patients didn't trust them the same way anymore. Sonaris felt rehearsed. Lena's platform felt alive, human, or at least closer to it. One afternoon, Matt stormed into the kitchen, eyes blazing. "She's cannibalizing our market," he snapped. "Who the hell is Lena K? There's no trace, no paper trail." Donna, ever composed, responded over her espresso. "Then we find a way to expose her, or sue her. Copyright breach, patent theft, something." I listened from the hallway, silent, arms crossed. They were trying to fight a ghost with paperwork. I almost pitied them. The invitation went out the next day, Women Who Code the Future, an annual summit hosted by Femme Override's external coalition. Donna received her invite with embossed lettering and a curated compliment. "We'd be honored to recognize your years of advocacy for women in technology." Her ego purred. "They've asked me to give opening remarks," she told Matt, holding up the ivory envelope like a trophy. "Finally, someone sees the legacy we're building." He nodded. "Good. Gives us a chance to counter the Lena narrative." Neither of them suspected that I wrote the speech request myself, that the logo on the invitation, 2 interlocking waveforms, was the same sketch they'd stolen years ago, that the keynote slot, still unnamed, was mine. The summit was held in a converted observatory, glass domes, open skies, soft gold lighting. Hundreds of women filed in, coders, founders, engineers, researchers. Donna arrived early, glowing in navy blue. Cameras followed her. Reporters asked polite questions. She answered like a queen. When she took the stage for her speech, the crowd listened respectfully. She spoke of perseverance, family, values. She mentioned Sonaris 8 times. Lena K, never. After her final line, "It's not about who does it first, but who does it best," she stepped back, smiling. Then the lights dimmed. A spotlight struck center stage. The announcer spoke. "And now, for our keynote speaker, a woman whose silence shook an industry, whose code spoke louder than any press release. Please welcome Rachel Hayes." At first, no one moved. Donna's smile cracked, but didn't vanish. Then I stepped into the light. Applause began softly, then swelled into thunder. Donna didn't clap. My voice, unfiltered, cut through the room. For years, I watched my work live in someone else's name. I was told to be supportive, to smile, to step back. But silence is not the same as surrender. It is, sometimes, the final step before you reclaim what's yours. I walked through my journey, without bitterness, but with precision. I showed slides, graphs, the original code, timestamps, the logo drafts. I even displayed the photo of the fridge with the waveform sketch taped beside the grocery list. The audience saw. They understood. Then came the final slide. "Effective this morning," I said, "Emberframe has executed a full asset absorption of Sonaris. All patents, clients, data models, and operational control are now under our umbrella." Gasps echoed. Some clapped again. Others turned to stare at Donna, now frozen in the front row. Matt wasn't there. I knew he wouldn't be. I ended simply. Names can be stolen, voices can be buried, but truth always finds a stage. The live stream counter blinked red. 350,000 views and climbing. The morning the news broke, I wasn't surprised. A headline sat at the top of every tech bulletin board: Sonaris co-founder under investigation for embezzlement. Matt's face, once framed with ambition and confidence, now looked pale and bloated in the press photo, as though the truth had finally begun to rot him from the inside. I didn't leak the documents. I didn't have to. The audit trail told its own story. Years of creative accounting, ghost contractor payments, unexplained transfers to offshore accounts labeled consulting services. What Donna called strategic reinvestment became undeniable theft once someone followed the money beyond the press releases. Investors moved fast. Donna, once the velvet-clad queen of tech optimism, was voted out of the Sonaris board in a closed-door session that lasted less than 15 minutes. The press release was sterile. In light of recent developments, the board has unanimously elected to restructure leadership. But the subtext screamed, "You're done." I watched from a distance. No smugness, no champagne, just quiet. When people fall, gravity takes care of the drama. That afternoon, I stood before a packed auditorium at another healthcare innovation summit. I wore no makeup, no statement jewelry, just a black suit and a microphone clipped to my lapel. I spoke plainly. You can steal a code base. You can manipulate perception. But you cannot steal trust. You can't plagiarize loyalty. And when that's all you ever built a business on, facades, borrowed glory, eventually the crown you wore turns toxic. Applause came slow, then rose. Some eyes were wet. Others burned with vindication. I didn't stay for the after party. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with congratulations, media requests, speaking offers. I ignored most of them. Then one notification stopped me cold. A message, time-stamped 3 months ago, unread. From Ellie, my younger sister. "I'm not okay. Not. If you can call just for a few minutes, I miss you." She'd always been the quiet one. The one I assumed was fine because she never said otherwise. But now, I realized I hadn't spoken to her since the early days of Ember Frame, when I was still hiding in the shadows, obsessed with revenge, buried in code. I had gone silent on her the same way the world once went silent on me. I called, heart thudding, but it rang out. Voicemail. Again, I checked her social media. Last post over 6 weeks ago. A picture of a park bench with the caption, "Empty seats, quiet minds." The guilt hit like a slow collapse. I sat in the car, hand still holding the phone, and let the silence smother me. I'd won a war, but at what cost? How many voices had I ignored while trying to reclaim my own? That night, I dreamed of my father. We were in the old garage, me 7 years old, building a science project. I had made a cardboard volcano. He glanced at it and said, without cruelty but without warmth, "You'll never be like your cousin. He builds real things." Even in dreams, his voice was steady, measured, disappointing. That memory used to haunt me like a wound that wouldn't close. But now it felt like a shadow of someone else's narrative, one I had outgrown without even realizing. Still, it echoed. During every applause, every accolade, every line of code, the feeling that no matter how loud my voice became, I was still trying to prove something to a ghost who never truly listened. The Forbes gala arrived quickly. A black tie event at the Met, all marble and champagne and controlled lighting. I was on the top 100 CEO list, printed in gold foil on every table. There was my name, Rachel Hayes, just beneath a paragraph about AI ethics and silent disruption. I didn't invite anyone. Not Matt, not Donna, not even Ellie, though I texted her again, wrote her a letter, left her a voicemail. No reply. The stage lights were warm. Too warm. The host called my name. I walked up, heels clicking like punctuation. I gave the shortest acceptance speech of the night. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is refuse to stay erased. Polite applause, cameras, flash, smile. Then I left. Backstage, I sat alone, removed my heels, rested my chin on my hand. The award sat beside me, gleaming like a trophy and a tombstone at once. And for the first time since this all began, since Lena Kay, since the summit, since the silence, I cried. After Forbes, I disappeared. Not in the dramatic sense, no dramatic press release or farewell post. I simply stopped showing up. The events, the interviews, the glossy panels with moderators asking, "How did it feel to win?" I said no to all of it. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to reclaim space or prove a point. I wasn't trying to be louder than my erasure. I was just done. The offers came fast. Acquisition deals, new VC rounds, collaborations with biotech giants who once passed on me without opening my deck. They dangled numbers like bait, promising legacy, equity, visibility, but none of them understood. I didn't want more. I wanted different. I spent 6 months in silence. No coding, no building, just listening. And when I finally moved again, it wasn't toward another product. It was toward a different kind of infrastructure. The fund launched quietly, with no press, just a single website, black and white, no photos, one line of copy, for women who weren't invited to the table, so they built their own. I called it Donna's Debt, not out of spite, not anymore. It wasn't about her. It was about what she represented, the entitlement, the rewriting of history, the way brilliance was always contextualized as luck if it belonged to a woman. Naming the fund that way was a reminder. Some debts aren't monetary, they're structural. The fund had 3 rules. 1, no pitch decks needed, just send your story. 2, no advisory board full of men who get it, only people who lived it. 3, if you build something from pain, don't sanitize it. Use it. Within the first month, we received over 200 applications. Most were messy, raw, emotional, and absolutely brilliant. Some were just 2-paragraph emails. Some were screenshots of Reddit threads where their ideas had been mocked, stolen, buried. Every single one deserved a stage. But one email stopped me. It was short. Hi, I'm Samira. I'm 22. My co-founder pitched my voice analysis feature as his. He said it was his all along. I have no proof, but I'm not crazy. I just need one person to believe me. I didn't hesitate. I responded within the hour. I believe you. Let's talk. That night, I reviewed her prototype. It was unpolished, barely functional. But the algorithmic skeleton underneath? Genius. She'd built a neural net that could detect dissociation in real time, PTSD flags, panic delay indicators, microtone shifts. It was more advanced than anything I'd ever written at her age. She didn't need capital, she needed context. A room that didn't ask her to explain why she was the one who built it. So I gave her that room. Within a year, Samira became the youngest recipient of the Health Equity Global Innovation Award. And she never once thanked me in public. She didn't have to. Her win was the repayment. Years passed, quietly. By 2040, the industry had changed, not in headline ways. There were still bad deals, still undercounted founders, still headlines that made my teeth grind. But the undercurrent had shifted. You could feel it in product meetings, in pitch calls, in how young women introduce themselves, not with qualifiers, but with clarity. And then, one autumn morning, inside a glass-walled classroom at MIT, a professor dimmed the lights. Her name was Dr. Samira Katan. She stood before 30 students, all women, all engineers. The course was called AI Ethics and Attribution. On the screen behind her, a photo filled the space, black and white, a woman back straight seated in front of a laptop. Her hands hovered over the keyboard like a pianist. The code on the screen read, "Write your own name in the code." Dr. Katan turned to her students and smiled. "This," she said, "is Rachel Hayes. You might know her from Forbes, or Ember Frame, or the Sonaris incident. But none of that matters as much as what she taught us." She clicked to the next slide. It was just a single sentence. She didn't win because she fought louder. She won because she built quietly until the world had no choice but to listen. The students scribbled notes. Some sat back in thought. A few whispered. Then a hand raised. Was she ever officially awarded for her original AI work? Dr. Katan shook her head. No, she wasn't. Another pause. But she's in every textbook now, someone said. How does that work? Dr. Katan smiled again, because sometimes the legacy you leave isn't the one people can put on a plaque. It's the permission you give others to stop asking for permission. The class ended. Students filed out. Alone in the classroom, Dr. Katan sat for a moment. She looked up at the screen one last time, then reached into her bag and pulled out a card. Black, embossed with silver letters, Donna's Debt. She placed it gently beside her laptop. No ceremony, no audience, just a silent thank you. Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves scattered across the quad, and somewhere in that shifting air, in the space between screens and generations, my silence lived on, not as absence, but as architecture.